Hi everybody, in this video I'm going to walk you through how to take the data that we got from the last video, from part 1, and actually create the motion graph from it, and a couple of look-fors that you'll want to see whenever you're working with students on this. So what you'll notice is that I've went ahead and completed the table. So I went through Inventor and I got all the measurements from the ruler from the bottom of the follower, and I have this value typed in as the same every single time because that follower rod that we're talking about, which is, let's see if I can switch screens here. The follower rod is the same length every single time. So rather than go through and try to figure out where the top of the rod is, okay, I just did a little math formula then within Excel and said, okay, all I have to do is take, for instance, in this cell, all I had to do is take the bottom of the follower and add the 4.6875, and I would have the location of the top of the follower. So that saved me from doing all those measurements. I rounded them to 4 decimal places just because that seemed like the good cutoff point because things are going down to about that level of precision. Not really necessary to show them all, but I think it's a good thing to talk about with students. So now, what do we do with this information? We're going to create a motion graph. The easiest way to create a motion graph, again, I'm in Microsoft Excel, which will change things. If you're using Google Sheets, it'll be a slightly different. You're going to insert a chart there. For here, what I want to do is insert a scatter plot. So I'm going to go up to the insert. Notice I highlighted everything, including this. The color coding I've done on my own because I know what it's going to look like in the end. So I had some foreknowledge in the color coding that I used. Okay, that has nothing to do with it. That's me going back after I created the graph when I was messing around to make sure I knew what I was doing. But I'm going to highlight this. I'm going to go to insert. I'm going to insert a scatter plot, which is right here. You can insert multiple types of scatter plots. We're going to choose the one that has the smooth lines and markers. It should show up something like this. Okay, so we have a gray line, an orange line, and a blue line. Again, I went through and preset mine because I knew what it was going to look like. Things you'll notice. Number one, this is a flat line. It's supposed to be that way because this designates the length of the follower rod, which is the same. It's 4.6875 no matter which measurement we're looking at. The other thing I want you to notice, it's hard to tell here, but the blue line and the gray line actually match each other exactly. They match each other exactly. This one's just elevated. It's 4.6875 inches higher on the chart. If you want to designate, if you want to show that off a little bit bigger and make it easier to see, number one, with your students' cams, there'll probably be a little bit more pronounced movement than what we have here with the hex cam, which is what I use on this test, okay? But all you have to do is come over here, double click on the axis, and it pulls up all these options here. The lowest value that I have on this chart, it looks like, is 1.3125. So I'm going to type that in as the minimum. And then the highest value that I have on any of these is 6.1875. So 6.1875. And that does help pronounce it a little bit more. You see here that you can see the up and down and how the blue and gray lines match a little bit more. That'll help a little bit. And hopefully you're going to want to go through and add chart titles, add vertical axis, add horizontal axis titles, all those little things, which you can do in Excel. You do by clicking up here, adding a chart title, adding axis title, stuff like that. All these little things you want to do to set up a chart correctly. But that's at least the process for taking the data table and turning it into a motion graph. And again, the big deal here is that the motion graph for the blue and gray lines should match. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to contact us.